everyone. It's Dr. Matt Stranik here with you, along with my esteemed and excellent colleague.
Dr. Doug Reed. Hi, everybody.
Hi, yeah, and we're coming at you here with episode 15, somehow, of the Ed Non-Tech podcast. This will be our second outing for this year of 2023. I'll just take a moment to say that I am very grateful to be on the unceded traditional territories of the Secwepemc people here in Kamloops, which is in Secwepemc Ulu. And really, yeah, we've gone from having leading into Christmas, we had just like this epic kind of cold snap that felt like it lasted for a couple of weeks. It's actually since gone totally mild here. And in fact, Doug, we have no snow to speak of at all at this point, which I gather is rather opposite of what you're encountering now, friend.
Yeah, here on PEI in the traditional and native home of the Mi'kmaq, we had no snow at 5 o'clock this morning, and by 10 we had 20 centimeters. And now we have about 6 centimeters because the rain has just come in. So it's a bit of fun.
Wow. That's like your maritime all-purpose weather, really. And then what Doug described, nothing to 20 centimeters to 6 centimeters with rain. That could be any time basically between October and April, right, in Atlantic Canada. So
yeah,
typically, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So glad to be here, of course. And I guess what I'll just say in terms of any kind of preamble, I did not necessarily grab that much time to review for this topic as such. I had an interesting tech thing happen. This is a tech podcast, in as much as you might even be able to determine from what you've seen in this room that this is an older building, 1970s construction. These townhouses where I'm renting out of. So they're prone to power surges because I clearly, between me and my two kids, we just have all of our outlets pretty much being used, more or less. So frequently just the power snaps out in part of the apartment. You just go and put the thing back on the board. The breaker, you reset it after a certain amount of time. And what it's done is like this happened like 4 times since in the 4 months or so that I've gotten this machine, this higher power machine. And every time, except for the last time, it came back successfully. This time, it just fried DOS completely. So I took it to the Geek Squad up at Best Buy at the Aberdeen Mall. Shout out to the professional and courteous and relatively prompt service I received there to restore the machine. There was no data on it whatsoever to speak of, except for just those images that go in the podcast notes and stuff sometimes. But apart from that, I've had to. So I did the music podcast using a laptop with Dan just this past weekend, and while I was waiting for this one to get back in service, and it is just you're using a laptop, man. Anyway, that's my huge digression and my tale of tech woe that has only just been resolved as of this morning. Now, since I got it set up again. So,
wow, that's a lot of work.
That was more explanation. I realized as I was describing it, I don't need to describe this, but it's just, what do you do when your thing, shuts off? I mean, I'm out of sorts, right? I'm just like, I gotta, it's a little sad, but it's back. So bringing it back.
That's a win, then.
Thank you. What's been going on with you, Doug? But I mean, by the way, the topic for today is awesome. AI in education. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. I gather that's sort of like kind of a, what do you call it? Is that ironic? Is that ironic?
Sure.
Are you being ironic there, Doug?
Do you know the story of Chicken Little?
Chicken Little, yeah. So you're using the allegory here to what happens at the end of that? To the Chicken Little when they say that, like, they say it doesn't happen. So like somebody runs over the annoying little chicken with a car, or what happens?
That's not the version I've heard.
No, okay.
I just heard it was people were kind of, oh yeah, it's that person being silly again and overreacting again, and
okay.
That's more along the lines of what I was aiming for.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm just wondering about this, chicken. Like, what happens to the chicken at the end?
This is not the same chicken that went across the road, so
okay.
I don't know what to tell you.
Fair enough, man. So why don't you tell me what you were thinking? That because we talked about this before a bit, largely I think in terms of academic integrity concerns. Maybe that is kind of what got stuck in your craw here, but I guess so. So what's making you interested in this now?
It's popped up in social media a lot. Like this chat GPT has suddenly become a thing because there's an easy user interface. The user interface has matured to the point that anybody can use it.
What platform are we talking about here, bud?
It's a thing. OpenAI.
Okay.
Chat GPT is it's all through Twitter. It's all through my Facebook feed. It's stuff at work. We're doing sessions on that. I have people that I'm working with that are saying, oh, here's how I'm using it with my students. And it literally came out with this nice user interface about 8 to 10 weeks ago, and they're already using it in classes. It's here's how we can use it. Here's how we'll make it work. So
wow.
it's pretty cool. Some of the people I'm working with are so amazing.
So it's a freestanding platform that anybody could just, Google it appropriately and download it to their local machine, or it's all browser based?
What my experience is it's browser based. Like you get a login and stuff.
Yep.
Basically, the ship's tour or the cook's tour of the ship is they've been working on this algorithm, this self-learning algorithm, and they grabbed stuff from about April 2021 or May 2021, and now they use that as the basis. So if you want to talk to this chat GPT about anything newer than that, it doesn't know anything, but it can learn, and it learns from you. So it kind of has all the knowledge of the internet from 2 years ago, and it's learning as people are using it. It's kind of got that same model. I don't know if you're old enough to have played video games with a disc, like you put the disc in the machine and then whatever.
That was like around grade 4, 5, and 6 for me when we got a Tandy computer in our home with that capability. And as somebody who had a really strong interest even then of just writing these really bizarre, funny stories, in addition to playing Frogger and Qbert and stuff with the loading into the the black disc. I also remember writing some nascent friggin' short stories and stuff at that time. It was a really formative thing to have that machine in our home during those years for me, in terms of what my life has turned into, especially with the education and online stuff and the blogging and yada yada. So thanks for sort of giving me a history reference there, dude.
So do you remember when that model of software development went away and it became we'll pump it out and we'll let the users find the problems and then we'll address them as the users report them or as things crash?
That's kind of like Microsoft's model for business since they started, isn't it? I mean, really, it's like just pump it out the door, get people to buy it, and then release the patch, and maybe monetize that aspect of it too, right? They wouldn't do it without monetizing it. So you create this whole industry of just band-aid solutions to it. We could probably talk for hours about that, but
But
I guess
that's what's going on now.
Okay.
Like we had the chat came out with a good user interface that's easy and simple to use, and
Yeah.
now they've got millions upon millions of people using it, teaching the algorithm and refining stuff further. So that's what's happening right now. There's
Teaching the algorithm. I think that is something. I mean, we're going to speak to that here too, I think. But,
Yep.
But just in terms of like things, like larger things to kind of tag, you know, to where the show could go or speak to, teaching the algorithm. I really, really like that notion. It's intriguing, and I mean, I'll be the first person to say, like, between just Facebook stuff, I'm just like, I actually like it. Like, oh, the algorithm thinks highly enough of me to have this, you know, content. I'm appreciative of it now. You know, I put up this ridiculous thing about, you know, the DiCaprio face from where the guy, except it's superimposed over a punk drinking in an alley, and it's just like, the algorithm knows where my mind goes, you know, at a level that my conscious brain doesn't, you know. So they've been harvesting the clicks. They've been analyzing those clicks. All of that, I think, is troublesome in the context of an educational conversation. But, you know, here we are in the 21st century. So teaching the algorithm, dude, that's friggin' awesome. Okay. So then I guess some of these references
so I
that
just
you pull out
wanted
here.
to jump into the history.
Please do.
Because Wolf back in 91 started talking about AI in education.
Yeah.
And AI has been around since 1970. So
Okay.
that's older than you.
Can you give me?
It is.
Yeah. So, but it is. So I guess not that I need you to like tear apart the reference or anything, but why 1970? Why does that resonate for you as like the friggin' thing? What's that associated with?
That's when Scholar came out. Like there was 4 he talked about there. I assume Wolf is a guy, so I apologize.
Okay. Gotcha. So that's
he talked about Scholar, and then Sophie, and then Gideon and Myson, and these were all AIs that were developed, and basically it was about building illustrations to show how things worked in small environments.
Well, that is extremely cool. So a history context there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So 1970, because again, that's sort of when I think about that sort of era. Correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but that's sort of around when like these instructional systems design, like ADDIE started coming into use. Like for like what
they were pretty mature by then.
Is that so? Okay.
Well, they came out of World War II, right? With the rise of the psychologists from the U.S. military and stuff. So they've been around for a little while.
So there we go. So that's I need to maybe finesse my knowledge here a little bit. Thank you for that.
I wrote a paper about that 15 years ago or something.
Did you?
So I'm a bit of a nerd.
Well, I mean, you're on a show about ed tech, you know, and we're talking about AI. So I think nerdship is just like a given. And you know, out of the dozen or so, who knows, maybe more regular listeners, I guess you may have audience, hypothetical or otherwise, have some nerdish tendencies yourselves, right? So anyway,
I sure hope so.
Sure hope so. Yeah, man. Okay. So then we sort of move in your notes from sort of the history discussion, which is extremely helpful for getting situated. And actually, okay, so now I'm just sort of looking at here, learning analytics. So when I was sort of doing my little tinfoil hat thing about Facebook clicks, so I guess, first of all, can you speak to analytics generally, your perspective on them generally, and then can you speak to that in relation to AI?
Sure. Analytics are pretty simple when you look at the core concepts, because
Yep.
it's really what are people doing and how are we tracking it and what are we doing with that info. That's basically all it is. And a
Yep.
good teacher's analyzing all the time anyway, right? You're in class and you're analyzing.
Thank
It's
you,
all
man. That's a really okay. So let's give the human sensory setup
yeah,
props for being a very, very sophisticated multimodal processing apparatus in and of itself, right? Let's
yeah.
privilege that. Okay, awesome. Good
And
stuff.
that's been going on for how many thousand years, right? How long have
Since
people been teaching other people to do stuff? It's
well, I mean, yeah, since the modern humans branched off from Neanderthals and briefly coexisted for the same time, in
yeah,
in the tens of thousands of years, right? So,
yeah. So that's been going on for a while,
yeah,
and the technology is keeps trying to figure out how do we replicate that, because it's like the difference with like a first year teacher and a teacher that's been in the class for 8 or 9 years, right?
yeah,
The first year teacher is going to fall in every ditch because they don't know what to look for and they don't know what to do when they find it. And the teacher that's been doing the work for a long time has figured it out. They know how to avoid the ditch entirely so they don't have to deal with that situation. And when they do have to deal with a situation, they figured it out already. Here's the steps we'll take. And that's what's going on with AI now, is they're getting to that point where not only are is the analytics collecting things for the educator to look at, AI is now making the obvious suggestions. And AI
there
is
you
now
go.
producing stuff. So they're taking that extra leap, and there's some cool opportunities there. There's a lot of horribleness in there too, but there's a lot of really good, potentially positive opportunities that we'll get to.
Well, okay, so in as much as, first of all, I think what you're describing is cool and reasonable, but then again, tinfoil hat time, it's terrifying. It's like Skynet,
Yeah,
right? What if because it's like the software is effectively then having a mediating influence on the human, response, the output, which isn't, that different, but the notion of, I guess, using the metaphor of a kind of consciousness for a non-human, entity, that is a paradigm now that we are going to be living through. So there, okay, that's
and you just introduced like three things that I want to go to right now. So
okay. So
I'm
so
going to
name
start
them
with
because I don't.
Skynet.
Yep.
I'm doing Skynet first because, again, I'm a nerd. And the last picture, the last little cartoony meme thing that I
Okay.
shared on the website was a reference to exactly that. It's like, why are you so helpful? What do you want to return? And it's like, as an AI language, right? I don't have wants and desires, but if you really want to help, give me the location of John Connor, right? Because that's what the Terminator movies were all about.
Skynet. So now, so much of I've been reading. Pardon me. Pedagogy of the Heart, Paulo Freire, and I've gotten through sort of the introductory, because there's actually three introductions to this book, like a proper current introduction, and then a forward, and a couple of other things before getting into his. But one of these, things that came up here is in the contemporary introduction, is the notion of algorithmic capitalism, and algorithmic, like, who's shaping these technologies. A lot of it is like Silicon Valley tech bros, right? Like
Yeah,
friggin' 30-year-old, as I've been given to understand by stereotypes circulating on the internet, it's like 20-year-old or 25-year-old, 30-year-old, 35-year-old people, in friggin' shorts, and with the office espresso machines, and I just picture like just this totally like, so, middle class, male, white, whatever, that's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that like,
Yeah, no, you're bang on.
so,
That's the
so
stereotype.
also, so that's something where, these AI technologies and whatever feature sets and whatnot, they originate, as individual products of individuals' cognitive processes, right? So it stands to reason that it's going to mirror the biases, of in aggregate or in individuals that are producing it, right? I mean, your voice sounds like what it sounds like because it's uniquely you, right? So, I mean, again, so then I'm just thinking like, okay, you got these California, Silicon Valley, friggin' tech class, whatever bros. I guess some of them are probably females too. But, building this thing that's effectively going to turn itself into a kind of consciousness in order to respond to the user interface. It's good. So it's going to start with the basic concepts and presuppositions and whatnot of tech bros, right? I guess I'm not making that much of a point here too. I just this is where it's going for me right now, a little bit in my tinfoil hat time, and
I honestly hope you're correct, and I honestly hope it's not the people with the money that are buying the companies that those tech bros start.
oh yeah, no, it is for sure, it is for sure. It's just like, let's give these particular folks, for all intents and purposes, unlimited resources to realize something. So OpenAI. So what's your notion here of openness? So like, are you in terms of like open education, in terms of some of the things that we've come through and explored in the show? Do you see any correlation there? Or
Oh yeah.
Okay, so can you again just
So
yeah.
right now, what's out there is there's a bunch of free stuff. Like I tried to create a logo for the end part of the end podcast, and I used freely available. I'm so cheap that I found about 10 different sites that were all AI sites to build the pictures. And the one I used was the only one that would let you have 40 images for free. Because you could do one or two for free, but they want your email address, and it's like, oh, bug off. I don't want to deal with that. So the two pictures that I shared a couple of weeks ago, I still kind of like, and I know.
I think they're fantastic.
Thanks.
I think they're fantastic. And there's gonna come a point. This is like a 2-podcast week for me, so I wasn't able to jump on it. But again, I keep mentioning the friggin' what do you call it? The sandbox, the EdTech sandbox, and I'm like,
yep,
gonna have to harvest these artifacts, these products of the show, and hopefully take it to the furthermost extreme example. So doing some more of these, and images along with what have you, so we can really decorate the casa, as it were. But anyway, neither here nor there at this point, but things to consider.
No, but that ties into learning as play, or play as learning as well, right? Like there's a huge wealth of literature out there that says people learn when they play, and we have that sandbox to play in, and we're learning stuff. So we're continue to be lifelong learners.
In my, I was almost going to say during my tenure as a person at TRU, but I did not get tenure. In fact, they were like, don't even bother to apply for tenure, is what they told me effectively. During my time, during the period of which I worked in my previous capacity, I definitely encouraged some of our, clients, the faculty making use of the LMS, to take a shell and literally just mess around with it, take advantage of, just being able to have a thing for your class where none of your students are. You can set it up just so you can break things without, risking someone's going to see it. So I think that is, an experiential approach to professional development, an experiential approach which, if taken as by, the primary instructor, hopefully that in turn leads to a similar kind of constructivist approach that the instructor may then use with their students. So you never know where these small suggestions are going to go. Yeah. Anyways, bit about a digression there, dude.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Okay.
So I want to come back to the Gilherm article, the 2019
please do.
AI in education one.
Yeah, totally.
The reason I like this article is they came up with this word technologization, which I have never seen before. Is that a term you familiar with or read?
Well, no, but I like it on the face of it. I guess, doing a Google Scholar kind of search or an institutional library service kind of search for that particular term may yield some interesting results. I just for me, you'll forgive me the indirect analogy, but it's like when punk music kind of got started in the mid 70s, it's like, well, who first coined the term? Well, in the pre-internet era, a whole bunch of people kind of coined the term, and so anyway, that's just to say, I don't know. It sounds cool though. I think we got to tag that for further deployment and or development, honestly.
I would like to vote for that for the word of the day for the podcast, or the word of the podcast.
Make it so. Make it so in the Google Docs, good sir, and it'll be.
It already is.
Well, you're thinking forward then. Man, these Google Docs are a wealth, Doug, of analytic information. So then again, this notion here, just to kind of to think of it. So basically, I think people who when at least the general folk that I encounter, when people think of AI, they think of something kind of abstract, like Skynet or some sort of extreme, almost science fiction-y thing. But I think the fact is, anytime you go to, say your power utilities website and you engage with, one of these chat mechanisms, I mean, that is effectively an AI, right? Is that kind of off base there?
Be.
Okay.
Some could be.
So please distinguish
Some
then.
Are pretty stupid. So.
Stupidity or not. So you're limited, you mean, in terms of functionality, or so?
Yeah, in terms of ability, because not to be negative, but I think some systems are set up to just frustrate you. Like if you've ever tried to get out of owning, or having a cable subscription, right? It's like that system is set up to frustrate you to give up, so you just
okay. So there's
keep your money.
So there's some intentionally, well, I mean, I was going to say intentionally flawed design, but if it's doing what it's meant to do, which is frustrate the user into not using it, then it's doing exactly what it's meant to. So caretaking and curating the deployment of AI is going to be, I guess, increasingly important. And within the educational context, including, I mean, so again, forgive my lack of knowledge or experience with this, because you have lots of work-based experience and stuff that you're dealing with in practical applications. So what happens if an AI gets hacked? Do you see AI being used across wider environments and sectors? And do we see it as something which is going to, there's open AI, but then do you see AI being used behind, government or corporate firewalls, at the back end, right? There's the front kind of, yeah.
You know that, what is it, CNET? The publishing organization. They've been pumping out AI articles written by AI for a while now, and nobody
By
noticed.
AI.
By AI, not about AI. AI has written them and they published it, and it's only now, like, there's somebody in Stanford that said we've created this algorithm to figure out when something's been written by an AI, when it's a product of AI. So now they're examining stuff and they're like, whoa, CNET's been doing a bunch of that. So that's kind of an easy way to get rid of a bunch of reporters or a bunch of journalists or a bunch of whatever and just pump this other stuff out. And nobody noticed. Or nobody noticed and made a big stink about it anyway.
That's incredible, Doug. I haven't heard of this at all, but now that you have,
oh yeah,
I'm going to use the Google machine to learn more about this. This is okay. So
that's one of the links I gave you down here. The college student created an app to tell whether AI wrote an essay.
Well, okay. So this brings me back to things like, I don't know if you ever had any experience using like Turnitin software, plagiarism detection
I hate
tool.
that. Yes, but I hate it. Yeah.
I'll tell you, man. When I first came across it, I was like a third-year teacher in Qatar, and God bless them, but we had some pretty blatant cases of plagiarism coming through. Various, any program, any course that involved writing. A lot of which was because almost all of our students were doing English as a second language, or second or other language. So you get this thing that it's like, this is written too well, and then it scans it and it's like, here's the Wikipedia article that this is taken from. So I sort of thought, like, in this circumstance, it's going to help me do what I need to do in terms of my evaluation and stuff. But now, several more years down the road, I recognize that there's all kinds of problems with those kinds of systems, but pedagogically, my answer then is always just going to be, why not have an assignment that's designed to stymie or remove the possibility of plagiarism, right?
Yes. So, and you are 100% where I was headed. That's exactly what's happening. And this OpenAI has just that's like somebody just said, when you get a snowball and the snowball starts to come down the hill and it's getting bigger and bigger. Well, this snowball's big enough now that it's destroying all kinds of stuff and it's not slowing down, because you can go in and say, hey, AI, do you know about whatever the topic is? Can you give me a 500-word essay on that? And it is doing that. And it's including references. And it's, you need it APA formatted? Yeah, it's doing that too. And right now it's limited to 500 words at a time, but you can go back in and say, hey, can you give me from words 501 to 1,000? It's like, oh yeah, no problem. And it'll give you the next. So you got to copy and paste the stuff in. But that's just a limitation of the software right now. But it's there. It's happening right this second. There's no way that education's not going to have to change because of this. And that's part of the sky is falling thing. Because in my life, the number of times I've heard, the world's coming to an end in education, everything's going to change. It was calculators. Can't have calculators. That's not fair. The world's going to come to an end. Then it was, you can't use computers. Then you can't use the internet. Like all of these foolish things. Can't have your phone in class, all that stuff. And education will adapt, right? I don't care what the technology is. I think we're going to adapt. And a lot of it's just what you said, right? It's, how do I change the assessment, or how do I change the assignment to make it hack proof so that they can't cheat using AI?
Well, and part of it too, I think, Doug, and thank you for all of that. That's a really thoughtful sort of summary of a lot of what we've been talking about. It's just, as you say, with the calculator, It's like now, you bring it to your exam, you use it as such. So I guess once the systems of using AI are more widely known, then again, it can just be simply a matter of including in your instructions, you can consult these kinds of sources and this kind and these, so I think information literacy is going to have to take, not just how to find the kinds of things that you need, but include maybe a little bit more knowledge and awareness of algorithmic scholarship.
Yes, that's a great word. I love that word. If
We're
we
just
have technologicalization. That's the word I would want to be the.
I feel like we're gonna probably end up coming back to this just because as we're discussing now, I feel like there's maybe more to this than I might have necessarily anticipated. Not from lack of importance, but maybe it wasn't on my radar as much as some other things. That's all. So Doug, I guess in terms of then affordances, in terms of like how it can manifest in a helpful way, do you see what are some of the positive spin-offs, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at here. Just speculating.
Now, every student can have an expert with them all the time.
That's true.
Like either on the phone or on the computer. Like if you want them to do an activity, whatever it is, I don't know if it's writing code or write an essay or examine a data set, whatever it is.
Yep.
Now what you can do is the students can work on it themselves to figure it out, and then it's pump that stuff into the AI and then compare your results with their results and figure out, and then so you have every single, like, what's the term in business and when you do business case studies, like every single case study you've got that you can give the students, you can get them to work it out, they can pump it into an AI, and they can get an independent expert, because this thing has got all kinds of info, access to everything, and they have the independent expert right there. No matter what your case study is, it can pump out a result. And right now it's good. I can't imagine once it gets trained more, like it'll be unreal.
Once it gets trained more, once the disembodied thing that exists on these computer distributed networks, once that exists, once it realizes more of its potential.
I did that with the pictures, and the pictures, it was here's my words, make me a picture, and then I would refine the words I gave it, refine the descriptors, and then it learned from me. It learned the parts of things I liked more, and it just kept. I put another word there, and then it added whatever, and it kept heading in good directions that I liked. And if I didn't, I got rid of that search term and put a different descriptive term in there. And it's like, it's doing that with writing now. It's doing that with graphics. It's crazy. It's doing that with AI search engines. Like they now have like an extension for Google Chrome. Plug it in, and here you've got access to the Chat GPT right in Google. And it's like, holy moly. And they have you.com. Like it's an AI search engine. It learns what you want. Because, sometimes you just can't get the right words to find it and narrow things down. Yeah, they're taking care of that for you. They're watching your searches and they're saying, oh, no. Okay, we think you mean this, even though you didn't say those words. Right? You're circling this thing, but you didn't have the right focus. So we're focusing for you. Is this what you meant? And it just scared me.
Well, again, I like your notion here of taking it and making it a teaching thing, right, within the context. So this is where, people who've been through B.Ed programs and M.Ed programs and whatever, I think it gets hammered across, pretty widely. It really helps to have a sound theoretical perspective. So, things like, ontology, epistemology, having a consistency of thought then helps you frame up how you're going to pursue education as a whole, as an endeavor, and such that, you can then take something complex like AI, and then sort of fit it just among the materials you have to work within the wider, experience, I guess you can say, however that's delivered and manifested. So that to me is like something where we talk about how sometimes non-educators, but even just people who are in educational roles, because of their subject matter expertise and because of their research capability and skill, and yeah, like that's the difference. Teaching is just what you do in the classroom, in whatever kind of classroom it is. Yes, but I would say that those of us who have come through education programs as such maybe have a responsibility to try and impart some of that framework and training to our colleagues as much as they're willing to hear it. Sorry if that's a bit of a sorry if that's a bit of a ramble there.
No, you were bang on. You're on the same path as me, so maybe we're both rambling into the same direction.
Well, I think, yeah. Go ahead.
But if you take a look at the way you were taught and the way I was taught, right? We talked about this a couple of episodes ago, where teaching used to be about knowing where the information was, right? And then the internet made that go away, because now the information's all over the place. It's how to use the information. And this is another step. So those pedagogues that can roll with it and can adapt, it's great. Yeah, the technology's there, but it's still about the teaching. You can have all the information in the world. That doesn't mean anybody's going to learn it or do the right thing with it. So it's about the teaching and those relationships, and like how much of teaching is counseling, right? It's somebody's having a tough day, you got to help them, right? It's part of what happens.
Yeah, well, again, it's those personal characteristics, it's those personal qualities, and this is why individual educators, do have such a meaningful impact, because you're not just sort of engaging with the person, the student or whatever, in that one moment. You actually are engaging with who they're going to become, and you just don't know. Like, I mean, I literally just today found myself thinking of this really kind grade 6 teacher I had, Mrs. Jones, who just saw that I had a thing for writing and actively encouraged it both inside the curriculum and out. Mrs. Sloan in grade 9, very similar. Like, she let me read my god-awful teenage poetry in front of the class a few times. Didn't make any friends doing that, but she's just like, yeah, this is a kid who, his heart is in this endeavor, and she kind of made room for it. So, this is just some of the many reasons that teaching and being an educator is such an awesome thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and nothing you said there mentioned technology.
Right.
That way, we're talking about technology now, and I think this AI is going to force people to go to that even more. So
go to which the
pedagogy and the relationship building.
Yes. Okay. So that's exactly. So information is one aspect of the learning environment. It's an important piece, but I think again, people lacking experience or training might give it more prominence than what it actually, deserves relative to all the other variables. Am I right?
I would agree with that. I think that's very fair.
Dope. We're drinking from the same. If we're not drinking the same Kool-Aid, we're drinking from the same cup. Anyway.
Fair enough. Fair
Good
enough.
stuff, man. So now you got some
So,
interesting case studies here. Speaking of case
so
studies, yeah.
yeah, I took a little twist this week, and what I did is I have my academic literature, but
Yep.
I had all the stuff that's in the media right now. Like I have a dozen links of, oh, the college essay's dead, the world's coming to an end, right? The narrators are dead, right? AI can do voice books, and now Microsoft's got a new thing that can clone your voice in 3 seconds. So if you talk for 3 seconds and say the right phrases, they can make that AI you, basically. And then there's all the artwork stuff where somebody submitted AI artwork and it won some award, and people are losing their marbles about that. So I threw all those other ones in for people that are interested, and that's this week. There's one from November, and all the rest are this week.
There's some really compelling titles here. New York City bans students and teachers from using Chat GPT. The college essay is dead. Death of the narrator. I really like that. That is just like such an existential thing that's, throughout the history of literature. Chicken, what is it like? It's not Pandora. It's like when somebody's being shrill, this is gonna kill me. It's an adjective. It's like a woman's name.
Karen?
Anyway. No, Karen. Okay.
It's soapboxing to me. It's how am I yelling louder? For me, it's Chicken Little, right? This is the sky is falling, right? Like I've seen this so many times, and I'm not that old, but I looked at the history, right? Every time something new comes in, the world's coming to an end. We can't change from this. It's the saber-tooth curriculum all over again.
Did you just say the saber-tooth curriculum?
Yeah. Did you ever read that book?
I did not. Please elaborate, dude.
Saber-tooth Curriculum by A.B. Pennyworth or Pennymore. If you do a quick Google search, the Saber-tooth Curriculum will pop up, and it's somebody in the 1930s wrote a book about curriculum development, and it is awesome. It is one of the best education books I ever read. It's a tongue-in-cheek, but it is right to the point. That's somebody that was sitting at the back of the room, frustrated, listening to people go on, and they wrote that book and published it under a fake name. Pettywell. I think it's Pettywell. But it is fantastic.
Saber-tooth curriculum. Again, I'm just thinking of just motifs and things, going forward. Decoration for the sandbox. Saber-tooth tigers, man.
And it's about he puts everything in, or she, I don't know if it's a he or a she, puts everything into the concept of when I was young, this is what I had to do to survive. It's all about cavemen and cavewomen. And I had to kill these saber-tooth tigers. And then we killed all the saber-tooth tigers, but we got to keep saber-tooth tigers in the curriculum, even though there's no saber-tooth tigers left. And you people need to learn this other stuff, but you still got to take class A and B on saber-tooth tiger hunting. It's one of these things that is just awesome. If you get the chance, it is worth a read, and it's not even that long. It's like 130 pages or something, and it's a small like soft cover kind of book. It's worth it. It's awesome.
I'm gonna have to check it out. And I mean, that thing you described about sort of the person being at the back of the class. I mean, I had some brilliant moments in my public school education, and by that I mean I had some brilliant teachers and occasionally brilliant classmates. But I mean, I was completely the person at the back of the class a lot, and a lot of the time it got to be in high school where it's like, oh, I can be the person at the back of the class even more by just not going to class, right?
I suppose.
So for me, like, again, the pivot, if you will, into what I've been up to now, it's both representative of that past, but it's also completely different for me. because I've, gotten to whatever point in this career and with these, degrees and whatever in a thing that ostensibly I wasn't happy with. And that, I don't know if that means I'm trying to fix the system or if I'm just so stubborn. I think I'm stubborn or dumb because clearly my last thing would have like worked out if I wasn't at least one of those things. So you, Doug,
Oh, I'm disagreeing with you on that. We can have that conversation off podcast.
Well, I'm trying to be as generous as I can in my public dissemination here. But
Cool, you do that, and I have my own very strong opinions.
I have my strong opinions too. But I guess, Doug, like in terms of the dynamic of the show, I mean, you've sort of come across. I mean, you were good at school, right? K to 12, more or less.
K to 11.
Okay.
K to 11, I was great. 12, I got into university, and then it was like, I'm done. I don't care. Like I got that acceptance letter, and then I slid into university.
You made a pragmatic decision based on your interests at the time.
Yeah, I was going in for a history degree, and I'm like, why do I need chemistry and biology and math? Why? So I was done.
That was it.
Which is not probably the best role modeling, but hey, I got a PhD now.
Well,
Get straight into my master's, so whatever.
I just find it funny, like, how people come to their respective situations. So again, this is where talking about AI as like, oh, well, this is just the next natural evolution of certain types of internet usage. But I mean, I'm in front of a computer so much of my time. My kids even are in front of computers so much of the time. And this is just kind of building up in the background, but increasingly now in the foreground of just basic user technology. So I think, again, this is what you've drawn to my attention, certainly. I don't use the Twitter machine, and my reading is pretty self-directed in as much as like, oh, I don't have that many passive sort of streams with this kind of, content in it. So you're aggregating this for me, you're bringing it to my attention, and I'm just like, yeah, this is okay. This is something that needs attention within the K to 12 education world and in the post-secondary. And again, greater information literacy that knows the exponential growth of the internet and how to navigate that with pedagogically appropriate ways. It's a huge thing, Doug, that you've brought us to here.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that we're doing this because it forces me to write them down. Because I do a bunch of reading, but I'm voracious. I read everything, but I never write anything down. And so is it in my head or not? And this forces me to build a structure because nobody wants to read what's going on in my head. So
this is like the standard kind of model in as much as, you have thoughts that you are then casting into the media format. And we're still within living memory of when these algorithmic systems, weren't sort of involved in a feedback loop, right? They weren't, it wasn't a case where the sum of human knowledge and increasingly human consciousness is embodied, within these formats. It was like you are going to put something into the media and you're going to, get things back from it through other people through an analog format. But now that gap, that distance between creation and production is just completely unmitigated, it's completely not there anymore. And so the conscious mind has to friggin' adapt to the notion of instant creation and production of these kind of digital artifacts that in many ways are much more durable than anything, physical. I can destroy my copy of this book and, but it's still online in some way. I've got 2 backup computers. I've got, this little device that back in the 70s probably could have sent a space expedition, into the orbit. So, anyways, just rambling here, bud. Got the rambles.
No, and that's cool. There's only one more thing I want to talk about.
Yeah,
and that
sure
was the last piece of literature.
Absolutely.
Like a Peachy et al. Article.
Yes,
and it's about vending machines. They decided to ban vending machines. They did the Luddite thing, or the ostrich head in the sand thing, and said, we are banning vending machines. You can't get sugary snacks out of them anymore. And then they said, what did this do to impact students? And they, after 2 years, diddly squat. And what brought me to that, and it's about vending machines. I know it's not really on topic, but it was the New York article, the New York City article where they banned AI in schools. So we're just going to ban it. We're not dealing with it, we're banning it, just the way they ban video games. And then I have the list of all these things that have been banned. And I'm wondering about you. Like, do you remember anything just getting banned from a school you were either teaching at or going to school in? Like, just, nope, we're not having this anymore.
I remember some really earnest and staff meetings about the use of cell phones. I was working at, that was the international institution, like at CNAQ, and the cohort of instructors in my department anyway. I mean, it sort of spanned the range from people who were kind of newer at it, like me, but then also to people who were, basically in either retirement or even post-retirement years. And I'm not saying it divided along generational lines, but it's just, there was one instructor who's just like, I'm going to collect the phones as the students come in, and you can't tell me otherwise. And I mean, that's just, you can say that's wrong in so many ways until you're blue in the face, but, they're going to roll how they're going to roll, right? So, anyway.
Yeah. Now, what about non-technology things? Does anything get banned, or were there any rules that you can't do this or you can't have that in any of your teaching? Because I know you did a bunch of teaching.
Yeah, I've had some strong reactions.
You're so polite.
Good and bad. I mean, like good and bad. Effusive and critical to the point of being unhelpful. In some cases, that's the whole spectrum, which we all have. I don't know, man. I like to think, I still think of myself as like being somewhat early career. And just kind of given how I've jumped around so much, whatever context, paid professional context I end up in, again, I'm sure it's going to be some kind of educational deal. So, I mean, I just feel like I got so much to learn myself about being an educator still, that it would be unfair of me to spend too much time or effort on the things that didn't work. That's kind of,
oh yeah,
maybe I'm giving myself a free pass. I've definitely spent time with those things, and I just I've internalized it. And in terms of strategies, in terms of tools, in terms of applications, one thing that I learned, I guess, early in my career, like while at CNAQ, we kind of went all in on using PBWiki for some departmental stuff. And there were some departmental champions beyond me. I was at a conference in Spain, and I was also kind of the lead on getting this wiki thing that we use going. And there was another colleague who did a presentation at like a in-house PD kind of thing, while I was off campus. And I got an email or a text message from her saying, "Oh my God, Matt, PB Works is shut down. Like it's just not accessible at all right now. And I'm supposed to be doing this presentation." And this is where it's like, yeah, you get a lot of stuff locked up on a third-party server. And it's like, the benefit is it's cool, you can use it. But then if they just arbitrarily or through some, issue can't provide the service, then what do? They don't provide announcements. There's no customer service. you're getting it for free, you know, in a lot of cases. So this is where, I mean, having locally hosted solutions or solutions that don't rely as much on the network to deliver key stuff becomes important. So there, I talked a way around and into something that didn't work that I can speak to there. So, dude,
because I just want to. There's a list of stuff that have been banned from random schools.
Oh well, dang!
Right, like Bart Simpson merchandise. I don't know if you remember Pokemon cards.
Oh God, I remember the Pokemon app and the cards because I have kids who were, you know, into that for 10 seconds. So.
And then there was like Pogs. Do you remember those Pogs? Those little cardboard circle cards, like they were the size of if you opened up a drink container, it was the size of one of those things, right? Fidget spinners have been banned.
Fidget spinners, that's yeah.
Fidget spinners, yeah. So all of those things have been banned. Like sometimes it's like backpacks are banned, and the two that really stood out to me from all this list of banned stuff, and it's like, banning it doesn't make it go away, right? You still have to deal with it. And one is books. We still have people burning books. We still got people banning books. And the other one is clothes. And it's like mostly it's clothes for females for whatever reason. We're the female clothes cops. Oh, you can't have spaghetti straps. You can't have your shorts have to come down to your knees or whatever, right? None of these things actually solves the problem.
No.
So you got to deal with it. How do we deal with it? With education and not necessarily technology. Just build the relationships and be educators.
Well, and that's just, you know, I don't mean to sort of step into my punk stuff a little bit more, but I'm reading this really good book. I'm going to be finishing it today about SSD Records from California, which is this iconic indie and punk label from late 1970s up until early 1990s. They still put some stuff out now, I think, but they kind of had their era where they kind of rose and then fell. But it was all about, you know, in terms of the musical culture, building it from the ground up and just not relying on any other aspect of the music industry to help you along. Like they built their own touring infrastructure, they built their own, you know, everything. And it's in a way that hadn't really been done before. So when we're talking just about these kinds of things, like the Police, you know, would come down to these hardcore shows and just, you know, knock the punks out because they thought they were violent stuff. And in a weird way, I think it kind of goes along with sort of the political intent, a bit of pedagogy of the heart, pedagogy of the oppressed. And so, yeah, anyway, bit of a ramble there, but I just see some likenesses to what you're talking about there, dude.
Absolutely. So before we go, I just want to say it's been pretty cool seeing you in color. These are my Enchroma colored glasses. So my color vision is weak. I see like 2% of the green everybody else sees.
Wow.
So this allows me to see more green. I'm not saying you're green. I'm just anything with green in the background there is more green to me now.
I got sort of some green lettering on this scarf. Well, no, man, I was going to compliment you on the glasses, actually. I wasn't sure if that was like strictly a fashion feature because they sure pretty do look sharp, man. But yeah, that's dope. Congrats on enjoying a wider and richer visual spectrum, my dude.
Yeah, it really has changed a bunch. I didn't cry when I first put them on, but holy smokes, it changed some things.
It literally changed how you see the world. Imagine. Yeah.
Really did.
Man, it's been a pleasure. So thanks, Doug. As always, thanks to anybody who's checking this out for the first, second, or however many times. We kind of have a to-do list as far as some back end and tech stuff goes. But as far as it goes, I feel good about, you know, where we've managed to cover, how much we managed to cover so far. And anyways, thanks for coming along. Thanks for joining us. It's really awesome.
And if anybody wants to comment, we're wondering if you think education's going down a problematic path with this whole AI thing that's going on. So if you want to leave us a little note, we would greatly appreciate it.
On the YouTube posting, or as well on the WordPress where this is going to be hosted with the notes. Okay, good stuff, Doug. It's always a pleasure. Take care, everybody, and bye for now.
Yeah, bye, everybody.